This is Dr. Andrew Jones. In this edition of Veterinary Secrets, I want to discuss how to naturally treat your pet's abscess at home. The signs of an abscess include a red and possibly swollen area which appears in your pet. Sometimes puncture marks are visible. There may be bleeding if blood vessels are damaged. And there can be lameness if the puncture affects the leg. This is an abscess here on a cat's foot. Commonly, abscesses are seen in cats from cat fights. Abscesses are often found at the tail base of cats as they're running away and they're bitten in the rear. And this is a fairly substantial abscess here. Your pet's teeth are very sharp, and even small punctures can lead to an abscess. The mouth is just a large cauldron of bacteria, and when your pet is bitten, these enter and multiply in the wound, turning it into an abscess. What are some of the solutions? The first big thing is knowing when to see your veterinarian. If your pet is very lethargic, not eating or drinking, then see your veterinarian as soon as possible. Bacteria from the abscess can spread in the body, giving your pet something called septicemia, or blood poisoning. If your pet has a large swelling that is not draining, then you must see your veterinarian to have it drained surgically. Abscesses that are open and draining and small bite wounds can be safely treated at home. The first thing I want you to do before you start doing anything to your dog or your cat, if they've got a bite wound or an abscess, is giving them something that's going to be a bit pain relieving and potentially a little bit sedating. So it's easier for you to one, look at them, and two, just more comfortable for them. This is a valerian as a tincture, as an example. This is something that you could give. And here, Cleo is going to take that pretty well. So you just give, a pretty standard tincture dose, but a 1/2 ml per 10 pounds. So you give something like that first, just to sedate your pet slightly holistically, give them some type of pain relief. A real good thing, because it's just completely painful to have any type of infection or abscess. A real common spot for abscesses, specifically in cats, are here at the tail base. So you often find that's where they're quite tender. For the dogs, depending on where they've been bitten or they've had a puncture wound, but typically the tail base. So after you've first given them something pain relieving, sedating, the next thing you want to do is sort of clip that area. Here are some blunt scissors. You should all have some of these at home. You're just going to clip the fur just around that wound. Give yourself a much better look at sort of what's going on. So you just clip that hair all around it. Imagine I just continually clipped hair there. And then you can actually see, often what I'll find is most pets are pretty good around it if you stay directly off of that sore spot and just clip beside it. So that gives you a better idea to see what's going on. Then what I want you to do is go ahead and flush that wound. You have a couple different options. One here is a syringe with some warm saline water. You should all have at least a 35cc syringe on hand. You can draw that up with the warm saline. Go ahead and what you want to do is then put the knob of that syringe, slowly spreading apart the skin, putting that right into the wound and flushing with a fair amount of force, because you're trying to get out as much purulent debris as possible. So you're flushing straight into the wound. You can also use, and this is an antiseptic flush, this is called hexadine as a flush. Something can go ahead and have chlorhexidine on hand. This is the 0.25% solution. That's something you can get at your veterinary clinic, you can get at most pharmacies. Great thing to have on hand for all of your pet's wounds as well as yourselves, the hexadine flush. So you can flush this 0.25% hexadine flush in as well. I like using a syringe. You can put a fair amount of force. So you want to repeat that as long as possible to get all the debris out of that abscess. So you're really putting a fair amount of force on that and you're flushing all that pus out of it. After you've done that, you can use some 4x4 gauze here, and just put a moderate amount of pressure on the base of the tail if that's where the abscess is. Just sort of pushing down, pushing up along the edge of that abscess, trying to push all that debris out as much as your cat or your dog will let you. There. Thanks, Cleo. And after you've done that, the last thing I want to discuss is some of the other holistic remedies. This one here, it's called Hapar Self. It's a homeopathic. Specifically, it's one that can be used to help draw out the abscesses. And it's something you can give one of these small capsules, the 30C capsules, 3 to 4 times a day. So it's one for sort of 10 to 20 pounds. So one for your cat. And just open his mouth, pop that in. There you go, Cleo. And in terms of treating it and flushing it, you want to at least be on doing that twice a day. And, minimum 3 to 5 days. You want that wound to stay open for a minimum 5 days. So along with this twice daily flushing, really working on keeping that wound open, following up with the homeopathics. When to lick and when not to. The saliva from your pet's tongue contains antibacterial properties, and this can prevent the initial abscess from forming. So it's okay to allow your pet to lick for the first 3 to 4 days. But then after this, you want to discourage the licking and allow the skin to heal. You can prevent the licking by purchasing an Elizabethan collar, also known as an e-collar, at your local veterinarian or pet supply store. You can also add a bad-tasting product such as bitter apple to the skin. And what you do is just spray that around the edge of the wound, and that'll also discourage the licking. And here's the little dog here with an e-collar on. And the last remedy I want to discuss is the use of oral of oregano. It can be applied in a diluted form, where you take 50% of the oregano oil and 50% mineral oil, applying that onto the abscess. It also contains effective antibacterial properties. Thank you for watching this edition of Veterinary Secrets. What I want you to do right now is click that link in the box below, and I'll be sending you my free books and videos on how to heal your pets at home with my top natural remedies.